Great Britain. So I've made that mistake before. They're heading to Orion, like the constellation, but Orion, Michigan, which is north of Detroit.
Oh, we have some listeners, and I know that are listening in Detroit. What is his name? Andrew, that listens in Detroit. Oh, he might like to go to that show. We have listeners in Michigan.
Yeah, it's a great place called 20 Front Street in Orion. I've played there with my whole band, but in this case, I'm playing with Chicago mandolinist Don Sternberg, who's a great musician, great guy. And so we're playing in Skokie tonight and in Orion, Michigan, not tonight, Thursday, and then Orion, Michigan on Friday.
And for folks who are listening all over the country, because we also now are carried in Seattle, Washington on KKNW 1150, folks can go to Chris Jones and the Night Drivers,
yeah. Actually, there are a lot of Chris Joneses out there, so I had to do something, and I should have added a middle name years ago, but didn't do it. So Chris Jones Grass, as in bluegrass, is the way to find him. ChrisJonesGrass.com. And Chris Jones Grass works for all social media, too. So it's...
Chris Jones Grass. You could open a dispensary.
Well, yeah, some states, that's true, and all across Canada, but I haven't gotten into that yet.
Okay. All right. Well, if you ever want to, I've got some places I can take you in Chicago. Although my place got burned. I have a caregiver's card for my mother who has survived breast cancer, and so our dispensary was actually firebombed. Essentially, someone threw in a Molotov cocktail and burned the joint right down here on Milwaukee Avenue. That was very disappointing.
No kidding.
But we are legal recreationally. Started out medicinally, and it was amazing how quickly it happened. Actually. Because there was, in 2015, Will Gazzardi, a state rep, wanted to just do a study on hey, let's see how it's going in Colorado and other states where they've legalized it. Let's move in the direction of seeing what it would be like, medicinally and stuff. And there's actually an award in Springfield when something you bring to the floor it loses by over 100 votes. And they start making the sounds of torpedoes, like missiles, and you get this trophy for having the worst voted against piece of legislation or whatever. And then within, I think I want to say 2 years, we started, Governor Rauner moved in the direction of medicinal use, medical use, and then under Pritzker to recreational use. So it's an interesting move.
And there's a natural transition from medicine to recreation. So
Fair enough. Before we continue our conversation, I do want to thank all of our sponsors who make these conversations possible. I do want to thank our friends at Source Solar. You can go to source.solar, maybe make an appointment, see if it's time to get solar panels on your house or business, and join over 100,000 happy customers in the Chicagoland area. Folks, I hope that you, if you're inclined, are up for a road trip. I'm going to be in Madison broadcasting live from the Monaco Brewing Tap Room in Madison, Wisconsin. I'm a big fan of Madison, Wisconsin. Do you like it? Have you been?
Madison is great, yeah.
Really?
I played in Madison, a stepsister that used to live there, and some good friends there. Great.
It really, I love Madison, Wisconsin. I love Wisconsin in general. I'm a dork. I'm a fib for Wisconsin. I love Illinois more. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. And you can see by my shirt, I don't know if you remember the Magicus sign on the Kennedy. It says STFU about Chicago. You're not even from here. So... got a lot of love for my city and my state. But I will be in Madison next Tuesday, May 13th, for our live broadcast from 5 to 7. Also want to thank our friends at Kids Above All. Go to kidsaboveall.org. And don't forget, we do have a comedy show coming up on June 5th at the Greenhouse Theater featuring Kimberly Marion, Paul Farvar, and Chris Barnes, and I will be hosting that show. And I'll be performing this weekend on Friday. I will be at the Comedy Plex for the show Moms Who Drink and Swear. I know that no one's surprised when you hear that I'm headlining a show that's called Moms Who Drink and Swear. And on Saturday, I'll be at Hope and Anchor in Rockford. So if you want to come see our shows, and if you have any questions about those shows, you can text or call if you want to join our conversation anytime. We do have our new sponsor of our phone lines. This is very exciting. It's always fun to have sponsors. We're grateful for their support. When you call, you'll be calling the Credo mobile phone line, and when you text, it's the Credo mobile text line at 773-763-9278. Credo Mobile, a progressive phone company that is better for all people and the planet, as evidenced by them supporting our show. And at any rate, Chris, when did you get into the States?
Just yesterday.
From Canada, right?
Yep.
For folks who are just joining our conversation. Yesterday. Did you fly in or are you driving?
Yeah, I flew in from Calgary, and I live in Alberta, but way north of Calgary, like a 9-hour drive north. It's a big province.
Canada's big. We've talked about it's really long drives.
And the West, long distances. And now my daughter moved to Calgary and was going to college there and is getting set to graduate. And so I spend more time there. I get a chance to see her, and it's kind of the main place. Got to go first before flying internationally. It used to be Edmonton more often. Now Edmonton seems like such an easy drive, like 5-hour drive. Now driving 8 or 9 hours. Often will fly if I can get a plane fare that's not outrageous from Grand Prairie, which is close to where I live. But yeah, so I came in from Calgary and had a smooth trip and made it through the border. When we come in, we cross the U.S. border in the Canadian airports. The U.S. Borders and Customs is set up in major Canadian airports like Toronto and Edmonton and Calgary. So it's like you cross into the U.S., but you're still in Canada. So it's interesting.
Wild.
But I did notice, I hear stories, and I don't know how much of those are apocryphal, but stories about Canadians being detained, big concern about smartphones and computers being confiscated and looked at. So I was going through and being a little careful about that. And that's
when you say careful, when I go to protest, I take off the function of face recognition, so I can't they can't hold up my phone to my face to open it, unlock it. So I make sure that's my passcode, because they can they can compel you, they can't open it that way without any further legal action, but they can't compel you to unlock it numerically. Is one of the things that I've learned. So I have that concern that, and I think we all do, that they'll use our what we use on social media or what our texts are to say something about the United States, because who knows, really. I'm sorry that Canadians are being also targeted and having this anxiety.
Well, it's just a completely different atmosphere than it was.
Ever?
Yeah.
Ever?
Yeah. Ever.
I mean,
ever. Yes.
In our lifetimes.
And I've never seen it. I'm from the States originally, so I haven't been there that long, but I have never seen anything like this, and I don't think anybody has in a lifetime, anybody that I've run across. So that nobody ever imagined we'd get here. So.
Yeah, it is. It's wild. Although I can't remember what I ran into. I think when I went to Canada, so I traveled throughout Canada to do comedy in the late 90s. And it was because I was going for work. They needed to know how much I was making. They needed to contact the person who had hired me to drive around Canada and do stand-up comedy. But that was that was the Canadian side. I don't blame them for not trusting Americans. I mean, with us.
Yeah, there's been a little discrepancy for a while for people who play music, as I do. You used to have to get a permit to go over and play, and there was a process to go through. It was always a little bit slow crossing the Canadian border to play in Canada, and then I think Canada decided, this isn't generating that much money. It's really not worth it. Right. So let's just dispense with it. So musicians now come in and play, unless they're playing in a bar. That's a different thing. It's classified differently. But or if you're teaching, it's a different thing. But just to go and play at a concert, you just breeze in, you show them your contract. For Canadians to play in the U.S. has always been a process and an expensive one.
You say pain in the ass.
It is, yeah.
Is that what you want to say?
A process.
Oh, you're very kind. You really have become more Canadian, Chris.
Oh, that's...
It's a process. You mean pain in the ass.
As a pain in the ass, exactly. So, and an expensive pain in the ass. So there's always been that little discrepancy, and I worry now that what's going on with trade will cause Canada to go back to that permit system as a way of punishment. I haven't heard any proposals for that, but who knows what's coming.
Oh man, we are in studio with Chris Jones. You can go to chrisjonesgrass.com and check out some of his great music. He is performing this week in Skokie, but they are sold out. However, if you're in Orion, Michigan, or nearby Orion, Michigan, he'll also be performing at
20 Front Street in Orion on Friday.
Excellent. Let's take a break here and continue our conversation. You can give us a call. We'll give you. Should we open up the phone lines? Up to Lady B. Should we open them up? 773-763-9278. You can call us on the Credo mobile phone. More after this on WCPT and KKNW. Those are the two right now.
Think Theory Radio.
Manipulating the masses is more utilizing propaganda, gaining a wide quadrant of the public, where crowd manipulation is more focused, like the divisionary tactics of these political parties. They utilize certain talking points and phrases to target specific groups that they want to maneuver and empower and get them to do their bidding.
Think Theory Radio with Damian Perdue. Saturdays at 6 p.m. on WCPT 820.
This is a WCPT Veteran Minute. When Pearl Harbor was attacked, men of all races across the country volunteered to join the fight, despite the United States Army being heavily segregated. Black enlistees were mostly assigned to combat support roles. But this did not stop Lieutenant Colonel Paul L. Bates, who knew of the racism and pushed his soldiers to achieve excellence. The 761st Tank Battalion was formed in the spring of 1942. It contained 30 black officers, 6 white officers, and 676 enlisted men. The unit donned the nickname the Black Panthers, wearing patches on their uniforms with a panther on it and the slogan, "Come Out Fighting." And in 1944, the 761st was assigned to General George Patton's Third Army in France. General Patton gave a colorful speech to his crew, and the Black Panthers became the first African-American tank squad in World War II. And by the end of the war, the Black Panthers had fought further east than every other United States unit, receiving 391 decorations for their heroism.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
If you're listening to this station right now, you've definitely heard my voice before. Hi, I'm Hawk.
And I'm Pete. And we're with Source Solar, your local source for solar. Source Solar is Chicagoland's premier solar installer, providing solutions for over 1,000 homeowners and business owners across Illinois and Iowa.
With over a decade of industry experience and deep roots here in Chicago, we have the expertise to help your transition to clean, renewable, resilient energy.
We can guarantee that we save you money day one without any out-of-pocket cost to you. This means you have an instant ROI, instant payback, and can save money to add to your bottom line day one.
At Source Solar, we source everything as local as possible, meaning we always carry the Made in USA sticker.
Find us online at www.source.solar. Stop in our office at 5710 North Northwest Highway or give us a call at 773-985-3992.
And don't forget to ask for Hawk
Or Pete.
Oops, sorry about that. I thought I'd be able to play this audio on the computer into the. Oh wait, I have to do this. Does that work? I'll have to figure it out later. Hi, I'm back. This is Patti Vasquez trying to play a little bit of Chris Jones music. Chris Jones and the Night Drivers with "What If You're Wrong." But it didn't come up on my boards. I apologize.
Oh, that's okay.
It's a good song because that's how I feel. That's how I feel about what's happening right now. And but I think I was feeling that way earlier, like mostly like when people voted for this and when he won. Now I'm just like I had a conversation yesterday with former Congresswoman Marie Newman, and she's been talking about how resistance isn't where we need to be. We need to be because resistance is definitely pushing back, not accepting things the way they are. But she says we need to go into opposition mode. We need to go into what the contrast is. What is it that we are fighting for, rather than we're not going to take this. We have to be in this is what we want. And I don't know that people are necessarily seeing that from leadership, and by that I mean we're really not.
Yeah, some kind of alternative vision, so that you're not just against everything. But the hard time is when you're just being barraged by major change and all the stuff we don't know how to handle. Yeah. All you know to do is react and say, "Hey, we don't want this. Hey, no way. Oh, not that." And
right, that's resistance, right?
And so it's just natural that you do fall into resistance mode because of that, because we're just getting that barrage. So it's almost like there's no room to talk about what we do want.
Yes, and she was saying it's semantics, but I do. I was listening to Mike Nellis' show, and there was a guest he had at the beginning who was talking about how there isn't even a branding. There isn't even look with the contract with America, right? I think that was Newt Gingrich, or the 100-day contract. All the different that continues to be And maybe I just need to stop complaining about it, and we need to just be brand. I need to find a brand for what it is I stand for, and keep talking about that every day, because I do stand for making sure people have access to health care, that people have safety and good incomes and retirement benefits, be able to retire with dignity in labor. At any rate, those are. I don't know what. I'm just one person with a very small budget.
Lack of insanity. That's a goal.
Now, your prime minister, what's his name?
Mark Carney.
Mark Carney. First of all, how were the elections?
Elections were great. I voted in my first Canadian federal election, and so did my daughter. So that was really fun and exciting. And I will say, and I've mentioned this to you once before, voting in Canada is encouraged a little more. It's kind of easy. I was checking on my daughter's registration, and the fact that if you're not registered, you show up and you live there, you can work it out on the day of the election. Things like that. There was no problem. I had to vote outside of the early voting time because I had to be out of town. So I said, no, just go to this office and, write this thing down on a piece of paper. And that was one thing, as an American, I noticed that was different. But the election, big turnout. And this was a turnout, I think, for the sovereignty of Canada more than anything else. And that drove... And it was not all a turnout for the governing Liberal Party, because Mark Carney was already, by having won the Liberal Party leadership, he was already the prime minister. So it was, in a sense, it was kind of like a re-election.
Sure.
But that political party had been down 25 to 30 percentage points in the polls. It was considered just an absolute sure thing. Conservative Party was coming into power very easily, and that all turned around just very rapidly as soon as the tariffs came in and the 51st state talk started, and Canada was taken aback, and everything changed. And in Mark Carney, it's kind of interesting. He is sort of the ultimate anti-Trump. He's, just being the un-Trump person, because he's not flashy, he's not a celebrity type, was not a politician, had actually not run for office. He's kind of straight-laced banker type, and very, like I say, just not a flashy speaker in any way. He's just very kind of level-headed. And I think it was the kind of personality people wanted to kind of navigate this somewhat scary time there when nobody knows, when everything is unpredictable. You'd kind of like somebody who feels very steady. And I think that was part of it.
Agreed. And I thought yesterday was pretty darn good when he was like, there's some things that are not for sale, including the building we're in and Buckingham Palace. And Trump was like sitting there nodding, not seeing where it was. You could see that he didn't know where he was going with that.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, no, never say never. No, we're saying never.
Yeah,
I loved
exactly.
it.
It was well done. And with Trump, of course, hard to get a word in edgewise. He managed to pivot to Obama's library, and now he was only hiring woke people. And but when he was able to actually speak, it was just right. And I think it was pretty well received north of the border.
Okay.
And I think that Canadians just want some reassurance, and they can come there, and good to know that some kind of relationship is being established. And also they wanted to make sure that there wasn't going to be a Zelensky scene or some sort of ambush of the Prime Minister of Canada in there. And so that didn't happen. That was
being
good.
shamed and being talked to like he's a child.
Because, you just never know.
Yeah.
Stepping there. So, I think it was okay.
It was. I thought it was good. And then afterwards, he was doing a press conference, and I think he said to one reporter, she asked what he was thinking, and he said, "It's a good thing you don't know what I was thinking." It was such a wonderfully Canadian thing to say. It's a good thing you don't know what I was thinking. Yeah, I'm still not going to tell you.
That's true.
What was going through your mind? Yeah, I thought that was really well done. Let's hear from Jim is calling. Now, I don't know if you know this, but Kristi Noem was in Illinois today. I don't know if she still is, but Governor Pritzker issued a warning yesterday to pet owners to keep their family members in the house, which I thought was really funny of our governor. Jim in Chicago, you're on with me and musician, singer-songwriter, and a host of his own show, Chris Jones. What's on your mind, my friend?
Good evening, Chris and Patty. Christy Nome, who's the cowgirl from South Dakota. Now, they can facilitate about 500,000 migrants there, and nobody would even notice that, just build some housing out there and turn the state blue. But apparently she's come to Chicago to rope and brand immigrants because they're dangerous people and they should be put in the gulag in South America. And Chris, I was going to ask you, can you point out the idiosyncrasies of the healthcare system in Canada compared? You lived in America and Canada. Have you ever experienced the healthcare system in Canada? And what are the differences? I'll take it off the air, guys. Thank you very much.
That's a great question, and I'm somebody that has dealt with a chronic illness, and that I've been Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease suffer in the United States, and so what I dealt with all the time was either not being able to get insurance prior to the ACA. I could be turned down completely, and when I was able to get health insurance, it was pretty expensive and excluded my entire digestive tract, and that's kind of what I dealt with in the U.S. I paid cash when I could to see a doctor in Tennessee, where I lived for a long time. So when I first went to Canada and became a legal resident there, and I went to my first doctor's appointment with a specialist, and the specialist said, okay, we should probably test you once a year. It's a good idea to come in here. And all these decisions were being made that were just about my health and what was important for my long-term health. Then I left the office. There was no paperwork at all. There was none of the bureaucracy that we're used to seeing in a medical office, where you've got to have 6-7 people just handling the paperwork. And I almost wanted to cry from that experience. It was such a weight that was lifted. And and I think I've always been trying to counter some of the misinformation, and people say, well, you got to,
you have to wait. Yeah, it's always that.
It's generally, those stories are generally made up, and what you do find is that for elective surgeries, for things like knee replacements that aren't emergency situations, and hip replacements and things, those will generally take longer in Canada because the priority is simply people's need,
right?
Not who has the better insurance, who has more money. So, yeah, those things there is a longer wait, I think, depending on where you live. But for essential things are prioritized by people's needs. I've never had a problem. I've never had to wait for anything for any length of time. It's I've had a pretty good experience there.
Wow, that's yeah. I've always wondered about these stories about having to wait, because everyone I've talked to from Canada, I've never heard any horror stories about something being delayed for treatment.
No, and I think Canada does deal with some of the same issues that the U.S. deals with in rural areas where there's a shortage of doctors, a shortage of nurses, and we have that where I live, and not enough doctors. But like I say, given that, I've had nothing but really good experiences. When I first started going to a general practitioner, that doctor was making house calls.
Oh my gosh!
I couldn't believe it. He's not anymore, but I was amazed.
I love that. We're in studio with guest co-host Chris Jones, musician, singer-songwriter, and host of his own show on Sirius XM. What's the name of the show again?
I'm on the Bluegrass. There's a Bluegrass Junction channel, and so I host a music show there, as well as a classic country channel, which is Willie's Roadhouse. So
excellent.
I'm on there too.
And you go to chrisjonesgrass.com for more information. Let's take a break here. When we come back, we're going to talk to Kim Savage from Illinois Democratic Women, now newly elected supervisor for Downers Grove. Awesome.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
I'm meteorologist Ray Miller from the Weatherology Weather Center. Look for cloudy skies tonight with a low of 46 degrees and winds out of the northeast at 15 to 30. Sunny Thursday with a high of 54 and winds from the northeast at 10 to 20 miles an hour. Friday, lots of sun and a high temperature of 58 degrees. Saturday, plenty of sunshine and a high temperature of 65. Sunday looks sunny as well with a high temperature around 64 degrees. That's the latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 57.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive.
Greg is on the line from Lake in the Hills.
I always recommend your show to everybody. I just really like your style. I like that you're a reporter, that you've got a background in reporting, and I just find your show and all your guests, like Jim especially, and Bobby and Dave, I think it is. I listen to all the time, and, you're great.
Joan Esposito, weekday afternoons 2 to 5 on WCPT 820.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
DuPage County continues to get out the vote and elect progressive candidates, so it's no wonder that there are now several local retailers carrying progressive beer from Minocqua Brewing Company. Be sure to grab yours from Famous Liquors in Lombard, Arminetti Beverage Mart in Roselle, Doty Liquors in Elmhurst, and Bobby's Liquor Warehouse in Carroll Stream, conveniently located next door to the DuPage County Democratic Office. A full list of Illinois locations that offer the Resistance lineup of beer is posted at the top of the Patti Vasquez Show Facebook page, as well as at MinocquaBrewingCompany.com.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue driving it home. I'm your host, Patti Vasquez. Hello to our friends listening in the evenings on KKNW 1150, the alternative voice of Seattle. We're broadcasting here in Chicago on WCPT 820. Heartland Signal, you can go to heartlandsignal.com and check out all of our broadcasts there. Some folks are asking about where they can listen to my show or any of our shows. When you can't catch them live, you can catch them anywhere you listen to podcasts. Joining me in the studio is Chris Jones from Chris Jones and the Night Drivers. You can go to chrisjonesgrass.com and find out about all his great music and when he'll be on tour. Joining us on the line right now is a newly elected supervisor. Hold on, let me get all the information, make sure I have this right. Kim Savage of Illinois Democratic Women, and now a newly elected supervisor for Downers Grove Township. Congratulations, Kim. How are you doing? Congratulations, Supervisor Savage. How are you doing?
I am doing well. Thank you very much.
Amazing. We are very excited for you. First of all, how do you feel about winning your race?
I'm really excited, and we're all very excited. We have never elected Democrats to the Downers Grove Township government before this year, and we elected the supervisor, the clerk, 4 trustees, and an independent one as the highway commissioner. So the only Republican left is the assessor right now.
Holy moly. And what's your sense of things? Is this a sort of the counterbalance of what's been happening in Washington and going on nationally?
I think that has a lot to do with it. And the same pattern happened all throughout DuPage County, and every township that Democrats ran for an office, they won that office. A lot of it has to do with what's going on in Washington, but a big part of our strategy was to connect with Democrats who just don't vote in the spring local elections, and we were able to, get a lot of momentum going with a lot of volunteers who just really pushed the fact that every election and every vote counts, and that drove the momentum to win the election.
Now, when did you get sworn in?
So we actually have taken our oaths of office. Our term starts on May 19th.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Yeah. Wow. And what are some of the things that you have? I know we talked about what you were campaigning on, but what are some of the conversations that you're having with folks about what you envision accomplishing?
Well, we are really, wanting to do stuff with mental health. There is not a mental health board in Downers Grove Township. It's the only township in DuPage County that does not have one. But mental health is very important. And also the senior services are important, and they have a good senior program going. We also want to bring back some meaningful youth service programs. And we're really, really concerned right now about cuts coming down the federal level to Medicaid and things like possibly Meals on Wheels and LIHEAP. And so we're just hoping that we will be able to find ways to bridge the gap on some of those things, because the cuts are going to affect people dramatically. So many in Illinois, across Illinois, so many births are covered by Medicaid and so many seniors are on Medicaid. It really is going to impact our whole economy if Medicaid gets cut.
Yeah, Chris, I don't know if you've been following how much, like almost $1 trillion that the Republicans have agreed to cut, and a lot of it is poised to hit seniors, people with disabilities, child care, and then people who are on the Affordable Care Act. Because Kim, right, I believe Illinois is one of the states that has trigger language. We have a piece of legislation that essentially, if federal funding drops below a certain level, people on the Affordable Care Act will be dropped.
That is true.
Yeah, that's and I don't think a lot of people, and that's Illinois. There's places where folks, I mean, like there are a lot. That's the Medicaid expansion, and so I mean, it's not just blue states. This is something that I don't think people realize is going to be coming for them. So tell us what folks are doing. I know with the Illinois Democratic Women organization, which I can't believe I by the way am as old as IDW. Just so you know, just saw that it started in 1971. So was I.
Yes. So we had a really great brainstorming session on Sunday. We had people actually from across the state there, and we just winnowed down some of the key issues to some main areas of concern. And the biggest areas of concern are Medicaid and cuts to Medicaid, combined with health care and how that's going to impact the ACA, education, how, cuts to education are going to impact everybody, and also civil rights. Civil rights is a big issue, and that runs a whole gamut of things, including voting rights, First Amendment speech, even access to lawyers and all the things that are going on in the legal profession right now. So people are really concerned. I think to help with that, we're going to probably do some virtual programming that on certain topics related to that, so we can help educate people, help educate people on the importance of local elections, because that's not just in DuPage County that people aren't concerned about local elections. It's everywhere, and I think part of it is, because local elections are a little bit more of a snoozer, and if everything's going well, people don't worry about it and get all excited about it. But we want to find ways to keep people more engaged in local elections. And we also have a lot of members that are participating in protests and other actions. So we will be a co-host on the Hands Across Chicagoland, which I believe Reed McCullum came and talked about last week on your program. And I know there is going to be a nationwide action on June 14th. The details on that aren't out, but I believe Indivisible is going to be coordinating that. And we're just encouraging people to do what they're able to do, because everyone can't do everything, but people can make phone calls to their legislators, they can talk to their friends, their families, and try and get the truth out to everybody about what's going on. And that's how we can have hope for the future.
What do you have? What are you hearing from folks about maybe for the first time considering running for some of those, local races that you were talking about? Are you finding people going, you know what, I need to get involved and not just volunteering? I want to find out what it takes to run for office.
Yeah, we are seeing some of that, and we do a little bit of training on that, but there are a lot of training resources. The Illinois Democratic County Chairs Association does a lot of training for candidates. The Democratic Party of Illinois has been doing training for candidates, and there's a great resource that's online called the National Democratic Training Committee that has a lot of resources about running for office. And I encourage people to do that or get involved with their local Democratic organization to find out what positions are going to be available and what they need to do to run, or what they can do to help a candidate run, because candidates need a lot of volunteers to get the word out. You can only knock on so many doors yourself, but it's just a time where everybody has to stay engaged and involved.
Absolutely. And now you have an event coming up that we want to let folks know about, the Tinker Harvey Founders Day Luncheon.
Right, that is the Democratic Women of DuPage County, and the Tinker Harvey Founders Day Luncheon celebrates Tinker Harvey, Catherine Tinker Harvey, who is a pioneer in Democratic politics in DuPage County. She served as the chair of the DuPage Democrats, of the Downers Grove Township Democrats, and she was a mentor to so many people. And I can tell you, I would not be involved, and many people would not be involved if it was not for Tinker Harvey. So we are doing that. We have some great speakers lined up, and we will be honoring some women that do a lot of work behind the scenes, Sue Sitton and Lindsay Kokoris, who just are great advocates and helping get candidates elected.
Outstanding. Thank you so much. We've been talking to Supervisor Kim Savage, newly elected to the supervisor position for Downers Grove. You can also find more information at IllinoisDemocraticWomen.org and find Kim Savage on Facebook, Savage DPDC. Thank you so much for joining us, Supervisor. Congratulations again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, anytime. Have a good evening. Let's take a break here.
You too.
Thank you. We'll come back in just a moment with Chris Jones, our guest co-host. You can go to chrisjonesgrass.com and find out more about the great work that he does. And we'll take your phone calls on the Credo Mobile phone line and the Credo Mobile text line at 773-763-9278.
This is Tony Moray. I'm an estate planning lawyer who drafts living trusts and wills. Since the election, I've been hearing from my clients, many of them fellow WCPT listeners. And we all wonder, how did this happen and what can we do? The how is, of course, very complicated. My thoughts as regard to what we can do is simple but important. We need to take extra care of those we love. Having an estate plan using either a living trust or will can provide comfort in uncertain times like these. When the progressive values we hold dear are under attack, I feel we must make sure that our personal lives are secure and then work out from there. I've been drafting estate plans for my clients for over 30 years, and I will use all of that experience to help you. Please call me at 847-996-0496. My website is moreylawoffice.com. That's Morey spelled M-O-R-E-E. Again, the phone is 847-996-0496. There is no cost or obligation for our initial discussion. I look forward to speaking with you.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Patti Vasquez is taking your calls now.
We need to speak out about this.
At 773-763-9278.
Hello, hello.
It's Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue to drive it home. I'm joined in the studio by guest co-host Chris Jones. You can go to chrisjonesgrass.com and learn about his music, his show on Sirius XM, which is, remind me again the names of...
On the Bluegrass Junction, which is the Bluegrass Channel, and Willie's Roadhouse, which is the Classic Country Channel.
I think I'm going to go see Willie and Bob Dylan in. They're going to be in East Troy, Wisconsin in September. They're doing Alpine Valley. I missed Bob Dylan while he was in the area. I'm a bigger Willie Nelson fan, but I'm fascinated by Bob Dylan's story. I think we've talked about my appalling lack of musical knowledge.
Yes, it's always a topic of discussion.
So I do better with music if I've seen something about it in a movie. Like
Did you like the Dylan movie?
I did. I enjoyed it. Complete Unknown.
That was really good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Robert Norton as,
oh my God,
as Pete Seeger, incredible.
Yeah, he was really the whole movie.
Edward Norton.
I enjoyed that movie tremendously. Everything about it, I enjoyed it. And but Willie Nelson, my dad was a big fan of Willie Nelson's too, so I grew up on that, like On the Road Again and Always on My Mind were big songs when I was growing up. So I'm looking for. I mean, he's 92, I believe, and I think his son now performs with him or in place of him sometimes. Yep. So all good stuff. It sounds like it's a good vibes performances.
And the channel where I work is because it's connected with Willie Nelson, and he takes personal, gets involved, and there's a Willie Nelson song at the top of every hour, so I get to play Willie once an hour, which is fun because I'm a big fan as well.
Yeah, I when I go hiking, sometimes I play Willie. Oddly, I don't know why, but Willie Nelson and Johnny Cash and just some of that. I kind of go rotate through some of those and Hank Williams Sr. and Jr. My dad loved Hank Williams. The Hank Williamses. Here's a text from a listener. If Canadians need elective surgeries and they can afford it, they cross the border and use American hospitals. I work for one of those hospital systems, and they bring in the business and money. Wondering if the political climate we have now will put a dent in business. I would imagine.
I would think so. I mean, if somebody's really in a hurry for elective surgery, make that trip. But again, that's for somebody who can just plop down a large amount of cash and get that done.
Yeah,
it does happen. Like I say, that is one area where things take longer up there.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned that. Yeah, I wonder if people will pause before making those plans, considering what crossing the border into the United States. I mean, I don't know if you saw J.D. Vance make this statement yesterday, and I don't care if it's a joke when they were talking about the World Cup. And he said, "Oh my God!" He said, "Lady B, did you see this?" Oh, Lady B's on the phone. He said, "We welcome you to come enjoy the World Cup, but once it's over, go home. Otherwise, we'll have Kristi Noem come find you." Like, I don't even care if it's a joke. I mean, like, these people are such nimrods. Let me get to our phone calls on the Credo Mobile phone line, 773-763-9278. First up is Roosevelt. We are taking the calls in the order they were received. Oh, dear, what was that? That was a lot of noise. Roosevelt, I'm going to come back to you in a second. Let me try again. Nope. Is he wrapping gifts? What is that? Is he under a waterfall? Let's see what that is. Let's see if I can determine what that is. Oh, no, it's not making noise. Let's see. Hey, Roosevelt.
Hello? Hello?
What were you doing?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Were you wrapping papers? Are you getting tinfoil for something?
No,
were you opening yogurt? What? I'm trying to think of all the things that might have been. That was. Are you putting on siding on the house? What's happening?
Can you give me a chance to answer?
No, I'm having too much fun with this.
Okay. Do you want the truth? Do you want the truth, or you want me to lie to you?
No, I want. Don't tell me you flushed. What was it?
No, I was cutting my hair. I was waiting so long. I said, let me see if I could. Hey, wait, Patty, wait. I was cutting my hair. I said, let me see if I could finish before she finishes. I almost made it.
Okay, folks, I'm going to need you to text and call the various things you've done while you've been waiting on hold to be on my show. I don't know if anyone's going to beat. I was cutting my hair while I was on hold. Chris, have you ever been on hold? So I mean, like, was your hair growing while you were on hold and you needed to cut it? I don't know what, Chris.
Yeah, I don't.
Hold on, Chris has to answer first. Go ahead.
No, I've never done that. I've washed some dishes, things like that, but no.
And by the way, Roosevelt has been washing dishes when I've come to him before. He's been cooking dinner. No, and I get it. It's that time of night. I'm amused. I get to be amused, Roosevelt. Yes. Hey, what's in your mind?
Patty, I was multitasking. I almost got my rice made, and I almost cut my hair.
I love it. Hey, good.
As Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young would say.
I'm going to start painting my nails while I'm doing this show. Hold on a second.
Okay.
What's on your mind, my friend?
Okay, here's the thing. I know the previous show I couldn't get on.
With Mike, yes.
But here's the thing that I see, Patty, and I don't know how you guys see it. By the way, Chris is your guest, right? How you doing, Chris?
Hey, how are you? Good to hear from you.
Same here. Hey, listen. Okay, so here's my thinking. I cannot get this out of my mind. Two things that have happened. One was alternative facts. Kellyanne Conway. I cannot get it out of my mind. while she was saying that, let's not forget that she was pushing all the stuff that Ivanka Trump was selling. I remember that distinctly. That's one. And the latest one is the media holding back inside the White House when Stephen Miller said, "Sir, President Trump, we have won the Supreme Court 9-9 decision." I cannot get it out of my mind. What am I getting at? I'm getting at the fact that we have an army of people that continuously stand behind this guy on his lies. Look, he's still saying that his election was taken over, that it was, that there was all kinds of, trickery or whatever, that it was stolen from him, to be bluntly. And then let's not forget, we always forget that Benghazi lasted a year with Hillary Clinton. The laptop, Biden's laptop. Remember that? You remember that we're saying that the Biden crime family? Where did that go? You know what I'm saying? So what I'm getting at is we don't have that on our side, and that's big. I don't care how anybody cuts it. In my opinion, when you repeat the lies day in, day out, what I mean by that is you have OAN, Newsmax, and the biggest culprit is Fox News. You only have Jessica Tarlov that is the only person that sets it straight, not because she's stands mostly on the side of truth, but because of the fact that she is a great reporter. So that is big, Patty, and that causes elections to be won and lost. Alternative facts. Alternative facts.
I know we're hooked on telling the truth. I mean, at least to the best of my knowledge is the best way I can put it. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, and you are kind of at a disadvantage when you hold to the truth in a way. If you don't actually care what is true or false, you have a bit of an advantage, and it's sad to say that. So you just have to kind of work harder for the truth.
Well, on the other hand, we were kind of in denial as Democrats. I was thinking about this today when I was listening to Mike's show, and during the campaign, during Biden's administration, acting as though people weren't not acting, but saying the economy is doing well when people personally were screaming about gas prices, egg prices, all these different elements. And like when you're explaining you're losing, when you're saying we're still recovering from the pandemic, we are doing better than other countries when it comes to inflation, which we were doing better with, after the supply lines were improved, all those things. But when you're explaining you're losing. And so telling people everything's great when they are telling you it's not, that was where we were having that, I hate the word disconnect, but we were having miscommunication, I think, and not getting our message out. And so we need to be telling people we would fight for them. We would continue our mission, because we were investing in infrastructure. We were creating jobs. We were improving the economy. I mean, we had record stock market. Anyway, thank you, Roosevelt.
Can I say something else?
Sure. Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. And another thing is this. How come, speaking of reporting, how come it's not reported that young lady that died on January 6th, her family is getting $30 million? I don't know what you consider her to be, but to me, she was a terrorist because she's at the Capitol, she's where she's not supposed to be, and her family's getting $30 million. To me, that's a travesty that is not reported.
I agreed with the caller earlier who said we have to figure out a way to claw that back. If these people can claw back already grants that have been distributed and go into people's bank accounts and take, and I don't know how that's going to look, but it's just the craziest thing. I agree with you, Roosevelt. Thank you so much for calling.
Thank you.
Take care. Let's get to Roosevelt is calling from Hoffman Estates. Hey, Roosevelt, what's on your mind, my friend?
Roosevelt.
I'm sorry, David from Hoffman Estates. Yeah, sorry. I was so stuck on the fact that he was cutting your hair. What do you do while you're on hold, Dave? Because I know you've been on. See, here's the thing. Dave, Roosevelt, Jim, some of them have been on hold for over an hour. And when you guys know I have guests coming up, I know it's tough. So what do you do while you're on hold, Dave?
Watch TV.
Okay, fair enough. What's on your mind?
Yeah. When Chris and I, hey, Chris. And,
hey, how are you?
Talking about in the Canada and stuff like that, it wasn't as bad as now. But I remember back when the Bush Jr.'s time, we rode up to the Sioux and on motorcycle. And guys that were coming over from the Canadian side of the Sioux and that, they were saying, stay out of Canada. He said that, they were doing all this Mickey Mouse stuff, like, if your ape hangers were too high or your pipes were too loud, they were, nailing you for all kinds of, ticketing, so they could ticket you, just hassling with you. But I mean, not like what's going on now, but I was back then when, you remember with Bush Jr. with the freedom fries and all of that kind of crap, and with his patriotism back then. But,
yeah.
So, but it was, like I say, it was nowhere near what it is now, because, like, I kind of think of it now like, we're kind of experiencing and seeing what Alice saw looking behind the looking glass right now, with this second term of Trump,
Oh, yeah. No doubt about it.
Yeah, you're mentioning about Jeff Daniels and about Willie Nelson. Remember that show, Newsroom?
Oh, yeah. I was trying to think Jeff Daniels, but now I'm talking, I've seen the monologue about what's wrong with America. I know so much of that has come true.
Yeah. Oh, I got to see that one. But during that show that one time, he was at the bar, and they were playing that Willie Nelson song, Always on My Mind. And he said, hundreds of singers tried doing this, but nobody can do it the way Willie does it.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a lot of Willie Nelson songs like that. Yep.
Jeff Daniels is a musician and a big music fan, so he liked to work stuff like that into shows.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Thanks for bringing it up. I've got to run to the news. Thank you so much for calling, Dave.
Okay, do well, guys.
Thank you. We'll take a break here. When we come back, I promise my callers on hold that I will get to you. I've got Angie McMahon first, who's the producer and one of the comics on the show I'm doing on Friday. Moms Who Drink and Swear at the Comedy Plex. We're going to see you with Chris Jones. Right back after this. Sorry, Lady B. I'm like 30 seconds late. Apologies.
Getting the kids to practice on time. Remembering if it's your day to bring snacks. Making it to the game with a clean jersey. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with Auto Owners, insurance doesn't have to be one of them. Auto Owners works with independent agents who answer when you call, so you can worry about more important things, like whether your kid is going to run toward first or third base. That's simple human sense.
In Will and DuPage County, contact Paul Fazio at Fazio Insurance, 815-727-2611, or FazioInsurance.com.
Stop feeling embarrassed about thinning hair and start looking and feeling your best with Hair Grow by New Nordic. Available online at Amazon, Walmart.com, and NewNordicUSA.com, or at your local CVS.
AP News, I'm Ben Thomas. Catholic cardinals have started the process of finding a successor to Pope Francis. Ed Donahue reports black smoke emerged from the Sistine Chapel chimney this evening, indicating no pope elected yet.
Crowds gathered to get a glimpse of the chimney. This was the first vote. The cardinals are sequestered, no cell phones. They're cut off from all communication until a new pope is selected. Before entering the Sistine Chapel, Cardinal Mario Zanari preached patience. Among those in St. Peter's Square is Samaditra Sarka, who hopes the next pope is Asian or a person of color.
I'm not a Catholic, but Pope Francis did a lot for other communities, other minorities, and I feel like when you open the doors for other people to come in, it just inspires others to enter the fold, and it inspires more peace and harmony in the world.
For much of the past century, it has taken between 3 and 14 ballots to find a pope. I'm Ed Donahue.
3 former Memphis officers have been acquitted of all state charges, including second-degree murder in the fatal beating of Tyree Nichols 2 years ago after he ran from a traffic stop. President Trump's nominated Dr. Casey Means for Surgeon General. She's a wellness influencer with close ties to Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. A federal judge has found the Trump administration cannot deport migrants to Libya unless they have a meaningful chance to challenge their removal in court. The order comes after attorneys said authorities informed migrants of plans to send them to the North African country, which has a history of human rights violations. The Fed's keeping interest rates unchanged for now.
There's just so much that we don't know.
Chair Jerome Powell says the impact of President Trump's policies is key.
We're in a good position to wait and see, is the thing. We don't have to be in a hurry. The economy has been resilient and is doing fairly well. Our policy is well positioned. The costs of waiting to see further are fairly low, we think. So that's what we're doing.
This is AP News. The The latest on a Turkish student detained by ICE.
A federal appeals court grants a judge's order to bring a Tufts University student from a Louisiana detention center back to Vermont for hearings to determine whether her rights were violated. Back in March, ICE surrounded Rumeysa Ozturk as she was walking down the street outside Boston. The encounter caught on video. They drove the grad student to New Hampshire and Vermont before flying her to a Louisiana detention center. The appeals court is ordering Ozturk be transferred to ICE custody in Vermont no later than May 14th. The Justice Department, which claims Ozturk supports Hamas, had argued an immigration court in Louisiana has jurisdiction over her case. She was one of 4 students who wrote an op-ed in the school paper last year criticizing Tufts' response to student activists. I'm Julie Walker.
And I'm Ben Thomas, AP News. Thanks for listening.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
I'm meteorologist Ray Miller from the Weatherology Weather Center. Look for cloudy skies tonight with a low of 46 degrees and winds out of the northeast at 15 to 30. Sunny Thursday with a high of 54 and winds from the northeast at 10 to 20 miles an hour. Friday, lots of sun and a high temperature of 58 degrees. Saturday, plenty of sunshine and a high temperature of 65. Sunday looks sunny as well with a high temperature around 64 degrees. That's the latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 55.
Teachers are dynamic leaders, shaping a new generation. They bring a variety of perspectives from diverse backgrounds, innovating how they teach to prepare students for our fast-changing world. Achieving this takes skill and expertise. They're tireless explorers, creatively discovering a universe of solutions, telling stories, experimenting, inspiring, mentoring, connecting cultures, and connecting with each other. Leading by example. Experience the unique joy of helping students thrive. Teaching is a journey that shapes lives. Are you ready to begin? Explore teaching at teach.org, a campaign supported by the U.S. Department of Education, Teach.org, and 1 million teachers of color.
Because facts matter. You are listening to WCPT 820.
Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez. From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing ass says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue to drive it home. Hello to our friends listening in the evenings on KKNW 1150 in Seattle, Washington. And now joining us, KTNF AM 950, the progressive voice of Minneapolis, St. Paul. We're broadcasting, of course, here out of Chicago on WCPT 820. And you can listen to us wherever you are on TuneIn for free. We're also live streaming on Facebook. And you'll see on our cameras, on our video, our very good friend Chris Jones, who is guest co-hosting today. He's a bluegrass musician. You can go to chrisjonesgrass.com and learn more about the great work he does. And we'll talk more with him in a moment. And I want to introduce you, Chris, and the audience, to my friend Angie McMahon, who is a producer and one of the comedians performing this Friday at the Comedy Plex for moms. It's a show for moms who, not for moms. We are moms who drink and swear. Am I getting it right? Yes. Angie, how are you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's moms who swear. Moms who drink and swear.
See, I made you get it wrong. That was my fault. I caused confusion and chaos. Yes. So let folks know the details of this show first, so we get that out of they're like, where's it going to be? And I always forget to do that first. Where are we going to be on Friday?
Yeah, so it's going to be on Friday at the Comedy Plex in Oak Park. They're right in downtown Oak Park, directly across the street from the Target. And the show is almost sold out. The owner told me about an hour before this that we sold 100 tickets, and there's only 150 seats.
Hey.
So it's the hot word on the town, from what I understand.
Outstanding. Well, I love that we're doing it on Friday night because I've done shows before where we try to do like a comedy show on Mother's Day, and I always tell people don't do that because moms sometimes spend time with their families, right? Now, what do you for Mother's Day? What do you like to do? What's your favorite thing? Like, do you have a favorite memory?
You know what is so. It's so funny. For whatever reason, we started this tradition on birthdays and Mother's Day and Father's Day and anniversaries where we force each other to eat food in bed. And I hate it. I don't know why we do it. But I get...
You saw some commercial where the kids are running into the room with, burnt pancakes and orange juice sloshing around. You want to, yeah. And all you and I can think is like, oh my God, there's going to be crumbs. I got to wash this out of the sheets.
It's going to be a mess. Yes.
Yes.
But the other thing is everyone leaves. And they leave me alone to eat in bed, and I don't want to, but I don't want them to feel bad, so I'm like hovering over my plate.
Oh my God!
That's usually how Mother's Day starts for me, and then
No, you go ahead. It starts, and then what are some of the things you do?
And then the kids like to take me on an adventure. If that's even if that's just going to a movie, or we go to one of those experience museums, or like we'll go to whatever, just an adventure on the town. And then we usually just either eat out or make dinner, of course, on Mother's Day.
Wow.
And that's it. That's the Mother's Day.
I actually remember one of my favorite Mother's Days, and I know people hate this. There are I don't leave my family. I don't abandon them totally for Mother's Day. We generally do like a Mother's Day dinner or something. We don't do brunch, all that stuff. Like when I was pregnant with Griffin, Steve and I went to. It was the last time I ever went to the Cheesecake Factory because I was like. It was in May, so I would have been like 6-7 months pregnant. We had to wait like 45 minutes. They were rude. It was just it was a terrible experience. At any rate, that was like the last Mother's Day brunch I went to. It wasn't even a brunch. It was just at that time. But my favorite thing I ever did was when the Cubs were in the year that they won the World Series. So obviously in May they were having a decent season. I went to my favorite restaurant, Knife and Tine. I sat at the bar by myself and just watched baseball at my favorite restaurant. And now that's how I like to start my day. At about 11 o'clock, I go somewhere. I do a brunch somewhere by myself, and then I spend the rest of the day with my mom and my family.
That's nice. No, but that is nice.
Yeah, because as you know, I drink and swear.
Right. Here's the thing. I've now tend to not drink around my family, like my extended family, my sisters, my mom, because I start telling them what I really think, and so I just get out of the equation.
That's a really good point. So, do you find that, Chris? I mean, when beverages are served to whoever, whether it's yourself or others, that maybe you're being a little too honest?
The filter, I've never had a problem with that. Everybody's different that way, and I've got a tough filter in there.
I do. Oh, do you? Oh, see, I don't have that. Mine is not locked down, and I end up bringing up things that needed never to be brought up again. That's who I am.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I have a filing cabinet with dates and names.
Yes.
Do you remember October 2017?
Oh, that's funny.
You're wearing a red vest.
Oh, my God. You're bringing the receipts and the details.
Yes.
Everyone's looking around going, why are there so many worms? I don't understand where these worms all came. Who opened that can?
Some people go in the more sentimental direction. I think you're like one or the other. It's like the filter comes off and you start to bring up the grievances, or you say, I just have always thought you're a great person.
That's the other direction. I need to do more of that. I think what you need to do is pre-plant those ideas before you have a beverage, and even if you don't drink, but if you're going to be in an emotional situation, pre-plant the things. Tell yourself what you're grateful for about the people you're about to spend a lot of time with. Maybe. What do you think, Angie?
Oh, you're going about this all backwards. I like to lament the monologue that I've been building up in my head over the last few years before I'm going to see them.
Oh, my gosh.
And then as I'm saying the words, just regret it, then regret it, and then think of their feelings. That's the order you're supposed to do, Patty.
There you go. And so this is not just a show for moms, by the way. This is a show for everybody. These are funny moms who've got a lot to say. Tell us about who's on the show.
Oh, Marley's on the show, and Alicia Molina. They're the features, and Evelyn Cacho and Marta Siegel are the guest spots, and I'm the host, and you, Patti Vasquez, are the headliner. So across the board, we have people who've performed at The Last Factory, been seen on Netflix, PBS, HBO. It's going to be a fantastic lineup, all moms.
Now, when you say we drink and swear, like what rating would you like us to aspire to or keep at, maintain?
Well, here's the thing. I was thinking about this today. This isn't the first mom-themed comedy show in the world, right? I Mom So Hard is coming to town soon. There's like Bad Moms. There's Unhinged Moms. These are big groups that do tours, and their comedy has to be very broad for a broad audience because they're going to a lot of cities. And the owners of Comedy Plex said, Angie, you want to do comedy shows? I said, none of those shows booked me for a reason. I said, I don't want to do a nice show. I don't want to do appeal to the audience. This isn't a paint and trip. This is a whiskey with hot milk. That's what I want.
Wow. All right.
That's what I want. I want to say, like, you know what? To be honest, yeah, I don't get booked on those kinds of shows because I am too dirty, you know. But I'm not for everybody. I'll admit it, Patty. But I just think I think that we can be that it's a little old fashioned to be like we can't say the F word because my virgin years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Hey, I know. Believe me, I know what you're saying. And so Chris, for women in comedy, especially here in Chicago, there was a booker at Zany's who would, he would, when I would come off stage, he would berate me for like that I shouldn't talk that way. And what's funny to me about that is that the women who are most successful in many ways, and Wanda Sykes, and there, believe me, I know there are exceptions, but like Chelsea Handler, Sarah Silverman, I mean, like potty mouths across the board. And so other women also then aspire to that sort of, you know, if that's what works, why wouldn't you do more of that? So it's sort of this weird space that we occupy of these expectations. And I can't, I'll tell Chris a story off the air, but there was I had been, because of my material, I was rated by a comedy club in Chicago as being X-rated. Right. And so the table tents, Angie, said that I was X-rated, and I went on stage and I was like, well, it's too late now. So I said, you know what? If I popped ping pong balls out of there, that would be X-rated. But if I say I did that, it's not X-rated. And I'm not using the word that I used on stage.
Right.
Important distinction.
But it's alliteration. If I was popping ping pong balls, yes. At any rate, by the way, we have a listener who says this show sounds awesome, Patty. This is Chicago. You are stipulating it. You swear. He says I like this lady. That's from Mark in Chicago.
Ah, nice.
Mark from the 385. So how do people get tickets?
Oh, you have to go to comedyplex.com, and it should be right up there, as well as like information about our women's comedy festival, our stand-up classes, our all-female stand-up comedy class. All the info is on the website, comedyplex.com.
And you have two kids. You went to, I know that. I do. And what's the age difference between your kids?
They're 6 years. I gave them complete childhood. My oldest is 20 and my baby is 14.
Now, did you get the feeling on WGN when we were on Monday morning on WGN TV that they were a little disappointed that our kids were older? Like somehow we didn't have, like we weren't in like the, you know, elbow deep in diapers and, you know, baby and mommy and me classes. I felt bad for them. But I thought we should be examples of survivors. Don't you think?
Right. Well, I thought that it was kind of funny when we were off air and the one woman was she was just like, they said that I should have a career first and then wait and have a child. And I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
They kind of put it out there.
They seemed a little salty about that they felt like they'd kind of been misled about when to have kids. And I remember Orny Adams told me in the 90s that I was never going to be successful because I was too happy. Right. And he said the same thing, that I shouldn't have kids, that I shouldn't, you know, because I was in a happy, healthy relationship where I was safe. I was just like, okay, dude.
You're not going to have enough trauma to make jokes. What's wrong with you, Patty?
Right. Well, I didn't become a headliner till I got pregnant. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You and Allie Wong?
Yeah, well, I was in 2003, and my show was, I was a similar show. It was Pregnant Party Girl from Stolies of Stirrups. Was the name of my one-woman show.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a lot, but we didn't have Netflix specials back in 2003.
Right.
No songwriting either if you're too happy.
Yeah,
nobody likes that.
Yeah, you can't be happy, Chris.
No.
Chris, what are your plans for Mother's Day? When's Canadian Mother's Day?
Same. We're actually meeting in Calgary, and
we're gonna meet.
So that's something. Actually, we don't have it planned yet, honestly, but just like to get in the same place is really big. So my wife and daughter are going to do something celebratory in Calgary, to be named later. But we'll do something. We actually kind of. I arrive, if all goes well with flights and whatnot. We don't go through Newark. Should arrive in early afternoons.
Nice. Well, Angie, give me your kids' numbers so I can tell them not to give you food in bed, because it just means you have to do more work.
Thank you.
Absolutely. What time is the show on Friday?
It's at 8 o'clock. Tickets are $25.
Oh, excellent. I love that. And the venue, this is a relatively new venue for folks in Oak Park. Is that right?
It is, yes. January 1st, they had their 1-year anniversary, so it's very new. And it's really been wonderful. The community has really come around the club and supported it and promoted it at different street festivals and things like that. It's been a really wonderful place to do comedy.
Excellent. Well, I'm excited to perform there for the very first time. Again, it's Moms Who Drink and Swear this Friday at the Comedy Plex. Remind folks one more time the website to purchase tickets. There's only a few left, folks, so we're going to sell out. I'm pretty sure that this is going to be a done deal by Thursday, so buy your tickets now. Where do they get tickets?
ComedyPlex.com.
Excellent. ComedyPlex.com. It's Angie McMahon. Go to the website, purchase tickets, and learn more about the show. And Angie, I'll be there closest showtime, but I'll be there on time. I promise.
Okay, I'll see you. Thanks, Patty.
Thank you, Angie. Have a good one. Oh, Angie, where do you want folks to follow you for social media and stay up to date on your comedy schedule?
On TikTok, you can find me at Angie McMahon, because I won the name war. Take that, Australian singer. And on Instagram, it's just A McMahon. And if you go to Linktree, it's the Angie McMahon Comedy, you'll find all my links, all my show tickets, all my stuff.
Outstanding. I will see you on Friday. I look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Patty.
Of course. My
Bye.
pleasure. Talk to you later. Let's take a break here. The phone lines are open if you want to give us a call on the Credo Mobile phone and text line, which is 773-763-9278. Credo Mobile, a progressive phone company that is better for all people and the planet and the station. We're very happy to be joining with them. More with guest co-host Chris Jones when we come back on WCPT, KKNW, and KTNF.
A Better Life with Dr. Sanjay Gupta.
Hypertension or high blood pressure is often referred to as the silent killer. That's because of the significant negative impact it can have on your health, even before you know you have the condition. Case in point, the most recent government statistics show that more than 3/4 of the 120 million Americans who have hypertension do not have it under control. First things first, you should know what your blood pressure is. And you can do this right at home. Sitting, feet flat on the floor, legs uncrossed, put the cuff at heart level with your arms supported on a table. A reading at or above 130/80, that means you have high blood pressure. To lower it, you can do a few things. Eat a healthier diet, get more exercise, quit smoking for sure, and drink less alcohol. Now, even if you do all those things, you might sometimes still need a medication to bring those numbers down. I'm Dr. Sanjay Gupta, helping you live a better life.
At Straight Talk, we are all about no-brainers. Calling Grandma for her recipe, no-brainer. Streaming one more episode at 2 a.m., big no-brainer. Getting real unlimited data where you buy bananas, the ultimate no-brainer. Switch now and get a free Samsung Galaxy A16 5G or Moto G Power 5G 2024 with select plans. Straight Talk, real unlimited data. Available at Walmart and straighttalk.com. Offer valid through 5/19/25. Taxes and fees apply. Requires in-source single line activation on qualifying plan. For network management practices, visit straighttalk.com/terms. Copyright 2025 Verizon.
Are you annoyingly inattentive? Do you watch a movie and then ask a zillion questions because you weren't paying attention? Do people ask, how do you sleep at night? Then you should get a mattress from Mattress Firm. They can help anyone sleep. Come soon to Mattress Firm's Memorial Day sale. Get a king bed for a queen price and save up to $700. Plus, get a free adjustable base with select Sealy mattresses. Get matched at Mattress Firm. Sleep at night. Restrictions apply. See store or website for details.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
If you're listening to this station right now, you've definitely heard my voice before. Hi, I'm Hawk.
And I'm Pete. And we're with Source Solar, your local source for solar. Source Solar is Chicagoland's premier solar installer, providing solutions for over 1,000 homeowners and business owners across Illinois and Iowa.
With over a decade of industry experience and deep roots here in Chicago, we have the expertise to help your transition to clean, renewable, resilient energy.
We can guarantee that we save you money day one without any out-of-pocket cost to you. This means you have an instant ROI, instant payback, and can save money to add to your bottom line day one.
At Source Solar, we source everything as local as possible, meaning we always carry the Made in USA sticker.
Find us online at www.source.solar. Stop in our office at 5710 North Northwest Highway or give us a call at 773-985-3992.
And don't forget to ask for Hawk
or Pete.
Patti Vasquez is taking your calls now.
All right, let's hit it.
At 773-763-9278.
I got a lot to say.
He's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us. We do have the phone lines open on our Credo Mobile phone line. Joining me in studio is guest co-host Chris Jones, who is performing in Orion, Michigan on Friday. The name of the venue again?
20 Front Street.
20 Front Street, because I keep wanting to say 21 Jump Street, and I know that's wrong.
Yeah, not quite.
And the movies are actually quite good with Tatum Channing.
Oh, yeah.
Is that his name? Channing Tatum.
Yeah.
What's his name? Okay. Anyway, I was on my way back from a trip with my son and my mom, and of course I had my headphones on, and I was laughing out loud. Griffin was so embarrassed. I'm a loud laugher.
That's a good thing.
Right?
Yeah.
But I'm often like, are you ever like, do you find that you're like the only person laughing loudly at a movie theater?
Oh, definitely.
Right?
I've definitely been those, a couple of movies that are, not exactly
everyone's cup of tea.
Yes.
Is that? I mean, like, what is that? And people like look at me. I've had people like give me glances. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm in a movie theater. I'm going to react.
Yeah. No, I mean, if you're laughing into some kind of a tragic,
that would be weird.
That would be weird.
Well, the first, to be fair, Griffin was embarrassed by me. I remember seeing The In-Laws when it came out with Alan Arkin and Peter Falk. And my mom was laughing. I was embarrassed. She was laughing so loud, right? And I am now my mom. I'm the loudest laugher in a theater. 1,000%.
I just rewatched A Mighty Wind. Do you remember
I've never
that?
seen A Mighty Wind.
Folk music parody thing.
It's like the Waiting for Guffman folks?
Yes. And I'm not sure I've ever laughed harder in a movie. I might have been the loudest laugher for that one.
Was it because it was inside jokes with musicians?
Well, partly, but I think it just was a really funny movie, I thought.
Okay. Excellent. Well, I'm glad that our friend Paul from Seattle has called back. And Bob from Chicago, if you want to call back, I will still have time before the show to take your call. But Paul in Seattle's on the line with me and Chris Jones. What's on your mind, my friend?
Well, a couple of things. The first one is, what is with Kristi Noem coming to Illinois and insulting the governor of the state, insulting J.B. Pritzker by saying, if he wants to have gangbangers in his state, and then she's going to do something. She was a fellow governor. I mean, the governors there is a board of governors or a governors association, and they're collegial. And now she's become this. First of all, what she's doing is politicking which is illegal. She cannot, as a federal official, campaign politicking by saying if he wants to have illegals or gangbangers in his state, and then she's going to be the one to clean it up. I mean, that's the first thing is like, and this tells me about, this is exactly the kind of people, the kind of neighbors that the Trump MAGA Republicans are. She was a neighbor with the neighboring state, not too far away, and she was a colleague of J.B. Pritzker and comes in to his state and insults him to his face, essentially. Insults the people of the state of Illinois, too. Slaps them in the face by coming in and trash-talking their elected governor. That's the first thing. I mean, that's just outrageous. The other thing I wanted to say was about Roosevelt was, he was saying that they're still talking about that the 2020 election was stolen. Well, of course, you probably know this, but in Oklahoma, not only are they going to have the Bible in the schools, and I don't know how they're going to teach that, because remember, even as kids, you found out from kids who went to different churches, well, we don't believe that, but we're Christians, we go to church, or whatever. What happens when there's disagreements about I don't know how they're going to straighten those out, but they're going to teach that the 2020 election was stolen. This is what they're going to teach in high school civics. This isn't all bad. Now, let me tell you why. This is not all bad.
Oh, boy.
You see, the kids, Patty, you know I have my angle here.
Okay.
The kids in Oklahoma have to compete with all the other kids in the nation for spots in colleges, right? And I'm thinking, I kind of like the idea that the kids of Oklahoma are going to be really stupid, because that takes about, a fair percentage of the competition away. I mean, that's, there's a certain amount of Darwinism here at work here, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. I guess the court's not going to do anything about it. So I'm like, yeah, okay, go ahead and learn that stuff, and people will treat you like the idiot that you are.
I get that, only there are so many states that are lowering purposefully and artificially their education rates by changing what history is and like because they're always complaining about, I just saw a list, a friend of mine just posted a list of schools where people are not reading at the grade level, right? And actually it turns out to be a lot of charter schools in Chicago because they're for profit and aren't invested in the kids. But I feel like there is an across the country lowering. I mean, is this a conversation in Canada at all as far as the education levels?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, that we're dumb.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, but you see, when I grew up in Michigan in the 60s and 70s, I was in school. In those days, Michigan was in the top 10 states in education. I was back there, as you know, for 5 years taking care of my mom before she died. And Michigan is like slugging it out with Arkansas and South Carolina for the bottom three in third grade reading levels. I mean, and guess what? Nobody's going to Michigan. I mean, there was a grand exodus from Michigan, beginning with yours truly back in the late 80s, about 1990s, and they can't keep any. But they have people who are sophomores in college teaching in the Ypsilanti public schools because they can't get anybody, and they have to promise to go into teaching. I'm going to tell you. I don't know how they're going to enforce that promise to finish your teaching program so that they can give you a contract. But they're not having a contract. They get nothing. They get no pay. I can't think of a better way to drive people out of teaching than to put them in that situation.
Yeah, really.
It's kind of like putting a little leaguer in the big leagues and saying, you'll spoil them real fast. You can't play. You're just not good enough. And for not only that, if you go into a situation like that where there are no professionals to help teach you, you're going to, help mentor you along. You're going to say, I'm not going to do this. And so it's just all collapsing. And Michigan has become the state where, because all of the tax base is leaving, all the people who are mostly people who are leaving to go somewhere else, they have nothing but retired people on fixed incomes who keep wanting to cut their taxes, right?
Oh, yeah, because they're not interested in upholding educational standards. Thank you so much for calling, Paul. I've got to go to the break. I've got a guest coming up. We're in studio with guest co-host Chris Jones. We'll continue our conversation when we come back on WCPT, KKNW, and KTNF.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
I'm meteorologist Ray Miller from the Weatherology Weather Center. Look for cloudy skies tonight with a low of 46 degrees and winds out of the northeast at 15 to 30. Sunny Thursday with a high of 54 and winds from the northeast at 10 to 20 miles an hour. Friday, lots of sun and a high temperature of 58 degrees. Saturday, plenty of sunshine and a high temperature of 65. Sunday looks sunny as well with a high temperature around 64 degrees. That's the latest Chicago weather update. Right now, it's 55.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
Are you looking for more in this world? Are you ready for something bigger? Then we are looking for you. The big-hearted, the bold, the messy and the gutsy, the teachers, the growers, the builders, the skilled, the sharers, the change makers. We need you. We are the Peace Corps. In more than 60 countries, we go all in and all out. We are volunteers, partners, communities, working together, living together, bringing our experience, passion, and joy to building a better world together. From tackling climate change in Mexico to keeping kids healthy in Kenya, from sustainable farming in the Philippines to education in Kosovo. We learn more, give more, share freely, and serve boldly. Are you ready to tackle the tough stuff? To go the distance to make a difference? Then we have a place where you belong. Join us at peacecorps.gov.
Medicaid and CHIP offer free or low-cost health coverage for children and teens. Hospital and doctor visits, prescriptions, shots, and more are covered. That's peace of mind for parents if a child is sick or gets injured. And parents may now be eligible for Medicaid too, even if they've applied in the past. Enrollment is always open. Visit InsureKidsNow.gov or call 1-877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
Hi, this is Patti Vasquez. We appreciate all our fans of Driving It Home, and your support of show sponsor Minocqua Brewing Company ensures that our important conversations continue right here on WCPT each weekday from 5 to 7 p.m. You can now find the Resistance IPA, Labor Lager, or the Resistance Pilsner beer at several Illinois locations, including Armanetti Wine and Spirits in Woodstock, Pineapple and Company in North Riverside, Lions Beverage Depot in Arlington Heights, and MP's Liquor, Wine and Beer in North Aurora. For a full list of Chicagoland locations, please visit MinocquaBrewingCompany.com. As always, please vote and drink responsibly.
Welcome back to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue to drive it home. Joining me in studio is guest co-host and Canadian, a dual citizen, right, of the United States and Canada. You can go to chrisjonesgrass.com to check out his incredible music, including What If You're Wrong, which is one of my new favorite songs. Because, yeah, what if they're wrong, Chris?
Yeah, exactly. What then?
What then? Well, they're never going to say, oh, sorry. Do you want a sorry? Do you want, like, I wish I'd known better?
Would help.
It would help.
I wouldn't turn it down.
I'm not gonna hold my breath. Is all I'm saying. Joining us on the line now is somebody who's doing a lot of work in the communication space and making sure folks are aware of what's going on in the state of Iowa. We've got Mazie Stilwell, the new executive director of Progress Iowa, an advocacy organization in Iowa's Progressive Communications Hub. Hey, Mazie, it's Mazie Stilwell. Is that correct?
It is, yes, Patti. So great to be with you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. And Chris Jones is joining me as well. And I want to find out more about you first. Where did you grow up, my friend?
You know, I am a lifelong Iowan, so I am so proud to call Iowa home. This is a state worth fighting for. I was born in eastern Iowa and have lived here in central Iowa for all of my adult life and most of my childhood as well.
I do love that you assume that we're not going to know any parts of Iowa and gave us no towns, but I mean,
that's all right. We are often a flyover state, but there's a lot that folks are missing here in Iowa. It is a great place. It has been a great place to live for a long time, and unfortunately that has started to decline rapidly. But I am just ardently committed to turning this state around and giving everyday Iowans a fair shot, and that's what we're working hard on now.
What got you involved in this kind of work, and you know, what kind of drove you into this space of wanting to make sure that folks knew what was going on around them?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I have worked here in the progressive community for over a decade now. I've worked across various sectors: healthcare, education, public employees, working on workers' rights and education, and most recently for Planned Parenthood before coming to Progress Iowa. And, you know, I've seen too many wrongs that I am eager to make right. And, you know, I've got a family. I've got two young kids that mean the world to me. My husband and I are having the time of our lives raising them. And we want this to be a state where they have the same opportunities that we both did as kids, where they are able to get a world-class education here in our public schools, where they are able to make ends meet for their families when they grow up. And those opportunities for everyday middle-class Iowans like us are just being taken away by those in power. And that really is what drives my passion for advocacy and helping folks tell their stories. And, I just see the way that really powers the policy changes that we see. I think stories are such a powerful thing. So to be in a position now where I'm able to help folks tell their story and share that in an impactful way, really drives me and helps me get up every morning and do it again.
I don't know if you've read the book, but I'm just starting the book, Jesus and John Wayne, and the writer talks about growing up in Iowa and sort of going to these religious functions, not really even realize she was kind of simmering in it until she saw the politics around her change. Is that kind of your experience of growing up and like being connected to the community and then seeing this distance between people, whether it's because of social media or because this wedge that's been driven between us from neighbor to neighbor? What's been your experience?
Absolutely. We have become so divided, and when we're able to get back to the values that we share, the Iowa values that connect us, I find so much unity in that. And really, there are such deep divides when you look at partisan politics and the way that folks are being pit against one another. That is really a class warfare. It's driving this deep divide in our communities. And you're absolutely right that these are so often found in our religious communities where folks gather once or twice a week or more. And, we see this all across the state in small towns and some of our bigger communities, too. I look at my own church home, actually, as a place where this is we've got folks across the political spectrum, but at the end of the day, we have deep friendships, we have deep connections, and that's really built in a shared love of our community. And I think that's a really beautiful thing that is worth fostering, that's worth fighting for and trying to bring folks together because, at the end of the day, we do have so much more in common than what divides us. But it's some really ugly politics, and especially at the national level, right? We see this just being wedged between people. And at the end of the day, we have so many of these values in common that I think really can be a uniting force.
So much of that division that happens is really for profit. Like somebody's making money off of us being divided. Yep. And do you find that the case at the state level and local level too?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This, it is the fact that everyday consumers, right, are being asked to live with less. It is folks that, are being asked to really make ends meet and to just suck it up so that the wealthy can get more tax cuts, right? This is, we see this both at a state level, at a federal level, and even, like you say, at a local level. And it is, it is such a division among us because who really wants to fight for tax cuts for the wealthy, right? That's not something that is popular, except the very few that actually benefit. So I do see that playing out both in our, there's a Republican trifecta that we've had here in Iowa since 2017. There's been a lot of really harmful policies that have tanked put our economy in a terrible position, taken people's rights away, made our schools plummet in their funding and the supports that they get. And that is what is tearing apart the fabric of our communities, right? It's not, your neighbor across the street, right? You're both being hurt by the same policies. But to your point, it is folks making money off of that. It's folks who are getting ahead on the backs of folks that are just trying to make ends meet.
Are you seeing any sort of reaction, or I guess too many of us want regret. I don't know a better way to put it, but are you seeing folks who are sort of suffering under the results of their choices, I guess, in voting for this administration?
Oh my gosh, that is such a tough one. Whether it is regret or confusion or resentment. At the end of the day, what we're seeing and what so many Iowans are seeing is that prices are going up, right? Prices are going up. We know that, whether it's farmers, right, who really need to be able to sell their goods to other countries, or it's consumers who are being taxed through tariffs, we do see people going, hey, wait a second, this wasn't supposed to work this way for me. This wasn't supposed to work this way for my family. And prices are going up all around us. Folks are hurting. They really are. It is, we're looking at cuts to Medicaid and SNAP and these other programs on the line, and that's really scaring people. And there's a huge sense of resentment, abandonment from, folks right here where I am in Zach Nunn's district, just across the way in Marionette Miller Meeks's district. These are folks that are supporting these, these taxes on consumers in favor of tax breaks for the wealthy. And I do think there's a real regret or resentment or just this idea of being sold out to the wealthy class, that folks are really saying, hey, wait a minute, this, I didn't think it would go this way. I didn't think that these things would actually come back to hit me. And there's some really interesting ways that we've seen that show up. There have been 3 special elections in Iowa just this year where folks have turned against, the Republicans in power by an average of 24 points, right? So this is not a partisan thing. This is folks saying they're looking at Republican policies and realizing these aren't working for me. These are not helping me and my family to make ends meet. And they are, it's really a realization that I think folks are coming to, that we need these programs. We need programs to work for those everyday families like ours. And it's really just the wealthy that are getting ahead at the end of the day.
How are folks doing with town halls? Because I saw a Chuck Grassley town hall where he was getting yelled at about of all things, due process. I was like, yes, Iowa. Yep. Hello.
Right.
Yep. So in addition to, the things that are affecting people directly, whether it's, access to health care, veterans benefits, as you mentioned, with farmers and the cost of things, people are reacting very aggressively when it comes to human rights. Tell us a little bit about what's going on in that area.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, these town halls, they really have been so inspiring. And, I will give credit where credit is due, that Chuck Grassley has shown up in town halls. Like you mentioned, he has taken those in-person town halls, and we cannot say that for the rest of our congressional delegation. And that is so disappointing, right? Because people ought to be able to ask questions of those representing them. And that has been the ask all along, for Representatives Nunn and Miller Meeks in particular, to host a public town hall to discuss these issues that Iowans are fed up about, that are hurting Iowans. And they simply refuse to face their constituents. They are running away from their constituents quite literally, and it is shameful. The best we can get from Miller Meeks was a telephone town hall with some pre-screened questions. They are simply unwilling to face questions from their constituents. And frankly, I think it's exactly what you point out, that people are upset. People are not okay with the decisions that are being made in Washington in the way that it's everyday Iowans that are being sold out, right? And it's really painful to see these decisions impacting our communities, and it is inspiring to see, whether it's at a real town hall, that's being held by the representatives themselves, or an empty chair town hall where folks are invited to show up, and unfortunately they don't. We've seen these all across Iowa, hundreds and hundreds of Iowans turning out to these town halls where their representatives refuse to make an appearance, but folks are able to voice their experience and voice the way that, that they're being taxed as consumers, that, that they're not happy about these potential cuts to Medicaid and SNAP and these programs that their families rely on. And unfortunately, it's these representatives who are too caught up in politics to listen to the people that they represent.
You do such tremendous work. Again, we've been talking to Mazie Stilwell, who's now the executive director of Progress Iowa. You can go to progressiowa.org. They're an advocacy organization and Iowa's progressive communications hub. How can we support the work that you're doing?
Well, having these conversations, right? It is so critical to be talking about these issues, to be helping people to tell their stories. I believe so strongly that everyone has a story to tell. You can visit Progress Iowa's website. You can donate to help power this work. That is what we rely on to be able to do this work out in communities, to be able to talk to people and help folks to share their message in an effective way. But share the information. We do a weekly briefing for folks in our network every Friday at 1:30. Tomorrow night in Davenport, if anyone is familiar with the layout of Iowa over in the Quad Cities, not too far from you in Chicago.
Yeah, we love Davenport by Galena. Absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I spent a lot of my childhood in Galena with my grandparents, so it's a lovely place. But there in Davenport, we have a candlelight vigil tomorrow night for folks who stand to lose their health care if cuts to Medicaid go through. So there's a lot of information that you can find on progressiowa.org, lots of ways to plug in and get involved. And again, if you're able to support the work financially, that's great too. But really, we want folks to be able to be connected with the resources they need to tell their story, to get that message across and to feel heard, right? Because we know that their representatives are not listening to them, and we want to be there. We want to listen and help them tell their story.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing this story. We'd like to check in with you regularly whenever your schedule allows, and maybe monthly, and make sure that people know what's going on in Iowa, and we can share these stories. Thank you so much, and congratulations on the new position.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks to you both. Great to talk.
Take care. Thank you. Let's
take care.
We got to keep talking to these folks. I got to get a hold of. I have to introduce you to Jess Piper, even if it's only on the phone, from Dirt Road Dems. Got a lot of work to do, Chris. Let's take a break here, and we'll wrap up in just a moment with Chris Jones, guest co-hosting with me on WCPT, KKNW, and KTNF. More after this.
Tonight on Democracy Now!
The Inter-American Commission on Human Rights has found the U.S. border agents who fatally beat a Mexican father in 2010 responsible for torture. One of the agents accused of covering up the death of Anastasio Hernandez Rojas has now been nominated by President Trump to head the Customs and Border Protection.
All those stories and more tonight at 10 on WCPT 820.
This is a WCPT Veteran Minute. In the midst of World War II, a group of Native American soldiers known as the Code Talkers became silent heroes. The U.S. military faced challenge of secure communications on the battlefield, and these men, primarily from the Navajo tribe, were enlisted to develop an unbreakable code. Using their native language, which had no written alphabet, they transmitted vital messages that were indecipherable to enemy forces. The code proved to be an essential asset, particularly in the Pacific Theater, where it helped the Allies win crucial battles. The Code Talkers' courage and ingenuity saved countless lives and turned the tide of the war. Yet, their contributions remained largely unknown until decades later. The legacy of the Code Talkers stands as a testament to the strength, resilience, and invaluable service of Native Americans during one of America's most devastating conflicts. This has been a WCPT Veteran Minute.
As farmers and ranchers, stewardship of the land comes naturally. Your work keeps our water clean, improves the soil, and enhances wildlife habitat. It also provides countless benefits, not just for you and your family, but for millions of Americans who depend on this region every day without even realizing it. Thank you for being stewards of America's prairie for all of us. Take a moment to find out how conservation pays. Visit conservationpays.org.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us. We are about to park the car. I've never made these corny jokes on the air, but we're going to park the car soon. Chris. I came up with driving it home when they asked me to host this time slot because it's evening drive time. But then we have people listening at like in the middle of the night in Seattle, and maybe they're driving. I don't know.
It could be.
Could be driving at 9 o'clock in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, or people who listen to this anytime because these shows are all available as podcasts. And you'll be on the air for 6 hours tomorrow. Tell folks about this appearance tomorrow.
Tomorrow morning, just got a call from the boss, and we'll be over at the Willie's Roadhouse channel, which is on Sirius XM Classic Country Music. Tomorrow morning, starting at 5 a.m. Central, 5 a.m. to 11 a.m. So, suddenly going to be busy. But
yes. Oh, man.
A Willie song every hour, and then lots of other classic country stuff.
And what is so we just got a text from John Harris, our mutual friend, who said that I'm no longer allowed to we have to alter the appalling lack of musical knowledge because I mentioned that I listened to Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson. Well, first of all, because Walk the Line was a movie. Seriously, if it's a movie, I'm more likely, or if my dad listened to it, right? My mom, I love you, but she loves Pavarotti and Placido Domingo. That was her music when I was growing up. And it wasn't until she got an Alexa that I found out she also loves Bob Dylan. So that was that whole thing. But that was, I think my dad didn't like Bob Dylan, so she didn't listen to it when I was a kid because he thought he was a hippie. My dad was one of those guys.
The Bob Dylan Pavarotti crossover audience it's bigger than people think.
Right?
Yeah.
What do you imagine? Do you have, what are some of your, we talked about Willie Nelson's On the Road again and Always on My Mind. Do you have, because you have to play one every hour, but is there one that you could never just get enough of?
There's an obscure one that goes back to 1974. He did Willie in that time was big on the concept albums. And he had a thing called Phases and Stages, and one side was it was a breakup album. One side was from the man's point of view, the other side was from the woman's point of view. And there's a song called I Still Can't Believe You're Gone. And it's just a beautiful, touching, sad number.
And here's the thing that I know about Willie Nelson is just how incredible his songwriting is. I believe the story is that he sold Crazy to Patsy Cline's producers for basically 2 bags of groceries is what I understand.
I forget the exact details of that, but back in those days that was done. People would sell songs. It was a case of Family Bible. That was one of his early hits as a writer, and he sold the rights to somebody else. And of course, they always regret that.
I would imagine, yeah.
My favorite story about one of his songs, though, with Farron Young, was a country star in Nashville, really believed in this song that Willie wrote called Hello Walls, and became a hit for him, and he had advanced him $500 on it because he knew it was going to be big, and then he would never take repayment. So Willie eventually paid him back with a prize bull. He bought him a bull, and that had just taken out to Farron's farm and given him money to back that up.
Oh, my God. That's wild. I love the stories about Willie. As I mentioned, though, if it's in the movie, I'm more likely to know about it. There was a line that I loved in The Complete Unknown where Bob Dylan's struggling with being famous, and I don't know if it's something, and it sounds like something he would say that, and I feel this way about people like Willie Nelson. I don't know if you ever have this. Like, I'll see a comic and be like, I mean, we know in part it is the discipline and sitting down and writing, but we also know that some people are just extraordinary, that they have this communication line to the universe, whatever we consider inspiration to be. But that line where he says, when people ask you, where do you come up with your lyrics, they're asking, why don't they come to me? And it's such a beautiful line.
Oh, yeah, it's a great line.
I'm just like, because that's really what we're asking. Why you and not me? Yeah. And there's nothing, you can do all the hard work. You can spend hours with pen and paper and strumming and bang your head against that wall. And I think it's also wanting to be like somebody else. And what we actually are struggling with is why aren't we finding our voice? Why isn't what I know I want to say coming out the way I want?
Yeah, and that's such a big struggle.
Well, you are a beautiful songwriter as well.
Oh, you're so nice.
I love your music. It's fantastic. And folks can pick up, and you've heard Chris's music on my show. I couldn't get the Adobe up today to get some of the music up, but we've played Chris's music on the show regularly. Go to chrisjonesgrass.com. Yep. And can they download there, or what's a...
Not straight from the website, but there are links to how you can download or stream, and I'll put in the plug. The current song is called Plenty Ventured.
Plenty Ventured.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Plenty Ventured, nothing gained.
Oh, there you go. Well,
it's the times.
Isn't it amazing how much everything has changed as far as how people consume the work that we do since we both started?
Oh, it's mind-boggling. Mainly, there seems to be less money for those of us who are producing the stuff. But yes, lots of changes, and we're still adjusting to them.
Well, in social media, are there any breakout stars like in bluegrass on TikTok and Instagram?
There are some. There are people who have who learned to have really strong presence there, and that is starting.
It's starting, yeah, because comedians tend to do crowd work in order to get and to not churn and burn their material. It's not the same as any other art form. We have to be constantly creating, and I'm not again this kind of not just discipline but time, and it's just not my area of getting on there every day and making a video.
Yeah, I can't do it either. Yeah. I wish I had that time, but juggling too many things.
Yes, it's a lot of spinning plates. So you're in town until Friday. Then you head off to Orion, Michigan.
Yeah, playing Siemens Violins, which is a wonderful place in Skokie, and
sold out.
Sold out, unfortunately. And then heading over to Orion. Who was the caller who was talking about the exodus from Michigan?
Yeah. Who was Roosevelt? Was it Rose? No, was it Dave?
It was Dave anyway. So we'll hope some of those people come back for the show in Orion. Oh,
it's so funny because people are having these conversations about people leaving Illinois and going to Indiana, Michigan. I listen to the station all day long, so it's sort of funny. Like I feel like I'm talking to listeners, and I'm like, oh wait, I heard that in my kitchen. People are. I love my state. I'm not going anywhere.
No, that's a good attitude.
Maybe Wisconsin once in a while.
I got a quick idea for you, though.
Yes.
All of your callers need to cut their hair while waiting on hold. And then they have to show you pictures.
I do need to see Roosevelt's haircut.
Yeah.
I do need to see his haircut. Well, thank you so much, Chris, for joining us in the studio today. I know you've got a long show tomorrow. I hope you get a lot of rest tonight.
Thanks.
And I thank our audience for joining us today, and love talking to you. Our guests were fantastic. Again, I'll be at the Comedy Plex on Friday, and then Hope and Anchor in Rockford, Illinois, as opposed to other Rockfords, on Saturday night. Thank you to our sponsors, Source Solar. We also want to thank Minocqua Brewing Company and Kids Above All. Thank you to our listeners on KTNF and KKNW. Good night, everybody, on WCPT. Love you, Lady B. Thank you for everything.
Millions of Americans take medicine like Ozempic and Zepbound. Many of them are overpaying by thousands of dollars a year. These GLP-1 medications for diabetes, weight loss, and more may not always